Hello, and welcome to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast with Astrologer Shelley Overton.
Okay, I think we're good. Hello, and welcome to April 8th, 2021's edition of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast with me, Shelley Overton. I'm an astrologer in Central Florida. I want to welcome you here today. We are going to be going over what's happening in the sky for the next week, and we are also going to talk a little bit about some deeper issues, some current events, and maybe what's been going on or is coming in with a few other slower moving planets like Jupiter and Pluto. So let's get started. Let's catch up from last week a little bit. I'm just going to give you an idea of how planetary aspects affected me. I think I might have mentioned last week that my car died. I don't remember specifically if I said that or not, but I was coming back from Orlando to where I'm at right now, north of Tampa, and I stopped at Labyrinth. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but I will show a picture here or even a video insert to show you what that is. But a labyrinth is an amazing tool to really get in touch with your higher self and your spiritual side. You can release a lot of energy when you walk a labyrinth. It's basically a flat map of like a maze, but it all leads to the center and then back out. There's no dead ends. It's just walking this concentric kind of circle maze. But anyway, I stopped at the one that I knew of in Orlando, which I've been to many times. And I was on my way out of town from having visited my family. And I was there for about an hour and my car battery died. So I had to call AAA and then I went and got a new battery. But it's kind of an interesting thing because you have all this intense energy. I'm just looking up when it was. It was the 30th. And so it was actually interesting because the moon had just entered Scorpio. And so, of course, that rules death and rebirth and the deceased. And I was at a location that was a cemetery. So anyway, I had my battery die, and I just found it interesting because Mars was in Gemini, which rules vehicles, and it's in a negative aspect to the moon. When moon is in Scorpio, it's 150-degree difference between the signs, and so that makes it a bit difficult energy. I'm just looking at the chart now. So yeah, when you have Scorpio and Gemini, they don't necessarily cooperate. And so every time I'm in a car under any kind of Gemini planet, I'm always very aware, especially with Pluto and Capricorn, because those two signs also are 150 degrees apart. And so they can cause a bit of stress. And because I have Scorpio planets, they're 150 on this side and Capricorn's down here 150 on that side. So you get kind of a yod energy, which is a sextile and two 150-degree angles. And so, Gemini being a Virgo squares. And so you don't want to really mess with that energy too much. And my car was definitely in the crosshairs of that energy. But I bring it up just because the energy of the labyrinth and what I was doing on that day was really interesting because I walked it. And as you know, my brother-in-law had passed the end of last year, but I really didn't get any closure having gone to a memorial because of COVID. And when I went to the cemetery, I really wasn't expecting that particular storyline to have any influence. I was just going to really relieve some stress. But when I got to the center of the labyrinth, it was really an amazing moment because when you get to the center of this labyrinth, looking opposite you is this, and it was Easter weekend coming up too. It was right before Easter weekend. And it was this enormous mosaic. And I guess I read about it. It's 11 million glass Venetian tiles that created this amazing labyrinth, which I'll put a picture of here as well. And so I'm looking at Jesus in the center, and I'm Buddhist. So, I have this kind of interest from a spiritual standpoint in the Christian archetypes, but not really an engaged Christian view of it. So I was raised Catholic till I was about 13. And then I'm looking at this enormous picture of Jesus with his hands spread open and the whole story of his life below in this amazing, incredible, one of the most beautiful murals I've ever seen. And it just, the whole walking the labyrinth really brought out a lot of emotion. And then sitting there meditating in front of this mural was really very spiritually moving. So when I got done, it wasn't surprising that my car battery had just been zapped of all power. And so that kind of Pisces and Gemini and Scorpio energy, or Pluto, really worked together. And I guess what I want to say about all that, hang on one, is when you're studying astrology and you go around your life day to day, look at what events occur or what you're emotionally going through or what you're mentally going through, and look at the chart as you learn the symbols and the placements in your own chart, but also what's happening in the sky. You can really get a feel for how the planets and their interactions influence your personal chart. So, yeah, I just wanted to bring that up as kind of an intro to today's astrology. Okay, so getting on to today, and I've started writing a lot more. I show this almost every week. I write in my daily planner to show you. I'm showing you so that you can get it if you would like. It's on Amazon. When it's available, I'll have a link on angeliczodiac.com, which is my website, but it's currently out of print for this year because they sold out. And I think they've also got the next year, 2022, coming in. They do have some of those planners up already from what I've seen on Amazon. I may put in a link on my Angelic Zodiac site for that. But anyway, okay, so I write a lot in this planner. Lately, I've really decided to keep track of everything, and I have for many years. I write what goes on. This has been my everyday planner for many years, but I'm starting to use it more with things I wouldn't have necessarily written in before. It would be appointments or, where I'm going to be for that day. Now I'm writing news stories in it as well so that I can look back and keep track of that. But yeah, I'm finding it really interesting to see some of the things that happen. Anyway, so today is Thursday the 8th, and that means the moon is in Pisces and it's sextile to Uranus in Taurus. It's the only aspect that shows up in my planner for today, but that doesn't mean it's the only aspect. As you can see, I'm going to put the chart here, and as I do, and you can see that probably there's a few astrological aspects besides just a sextile. And we've got a trine between Jupiter and Mars, which is really an interesting aspect because it's in an air sign. Mars is at 21 Gemini, Jupiter is at 24 Aquarius, and so it's an air energy. Last week I had mentioned, and probably the last few weeks I've mentioned the planetary aspects in Aries, because Aries is a significant sign for a number of different things that are currently making its way into the news. And one of them is the George Floyd trial, because last year when we had Mars in Aries for a good 6 months, that was the beginning. And even just before Mars was in Aries, Mars was in Pisces. And Pisces is a really deep emotional energy, but it's ruled by Neptune, which is an idealized view of things. So when Mars, the planet of action, the planet that rules Aries, was in the last sign of the zodiac right before he went into Aries, his own sign, last year, was really the rise of the Black Lives Matters movement, and also the racism energy as being a focal point in society all around the world, basically. And so this energy this year of Mercury just moving into Aries, Sun at 19 Aries, Venus in Aries currently, and then we've got the Moon in Aries as of the day after tomorrow. Let me just look at it. It's right here. I can tell you. It moves in at 11 p.m. Pacific on Friday the 9th, and it is at 2:11 a.m. Eastern time when the moon moves into Aries on Saturday morning. So overnight from Friday to Saturday and through the course of the weekend, the moon will be in Aries. And so that is a significator of what's going on with things. I think definitely Friday night as we move through this trial will be significant, but it's been a very significant trial for the whole week. I've touched in on it throughout the day as I'm working on my website and getting a lot of different information up and integrating a number of different websites right now. I've been watching some of the trial, and it's very moving. We've got the Aries energy is still very significant, with Mercury being our thoughts. It's in the forefront of our mind. Gun control, racism, aggression with the police in general. We had someone pass away this last week. I believe it was when the man tried to ram the barrier in the Capitol. And I'm telling you, there have been so many events almost every day with aggression and knives and guns that it's kind of hard to keep it all straight. But we've had the 2 shootings, one in Atlanta, one in Boulder, the Capitol, and today there was a death of a doctor in South Carolina, I believe it was, South or North Carolina, I think South. And he and his wife died, and both their grandkids, or at least 2 of their grandkids, one was 5, one was 9. It was extremely gut-wrenching. I looked him up on Facebook and found some very interesting information. He was a writer. His name was Dr. Leslie, Lesslie, and he had a number of books. He was what seemed to me a very vocal writer and author, and he wrote about COVID. He wrote about angels in the ER, which was really interesting. It's a $2 ebook. I may get it because it seemed really interesting to me. And he seemed to be a higher vibrating individual because he was seeking out information. He was helping people. His life career as a doctor was really very productive and proactive. He was in his 60s from what I saw. And, just what he was trying to accomplish. There were even some paragraphs about his view of what he believed to be his death and what he contributed to this life as being. And I found it really moving. So if you get a chance, maybe look him up. I think his name was Robert Leslie, Dr. Robert Leslie. And anyway, I mean, I've definitely had a moment this morning reading about him and his grandkids, and it moves me very deeply. But I would recommend looking him up because he was really an interesting person. But he's gone now, and it's just one more event in a very difficult month of events. So yes, I mean, I've definitely tried to not focus on the dark side of things and, really activate the law of attraction to keep vibrations high. But in soul searching some of that, I've realized that having a Scorpio rising, having Moon conjunct Neptune in Scorpio in my chart, Pluto is right next to my sun in my chart. It really makes me kind of, my baseline is very introspective and deep and emotional. And I am affected by these events. I'm affected by the moon in Pisces today. And every time the moon gets to a water sign, I do go into a little heavier energy. And so if you feel that, don't feel like you're alone. Don't feel like it's your burden to bear, that you are the only one feeling these deep feelings, because I'm feeling them too. I have to really focus intention on my mood and my interests in a day, every day. It's almost become, especially with COVID, especially with isolation and the aspects going on right now, we've got Pluto at 26 Capricorn squaring Venus at 22 Aries. The sun is at 19, so he is 7 degrees off an exact square to Pluto as well. As these planets move into a square with Pluto, we are asked to really look deeper into what we want as a collective with our energy, with our drive, with our intentions, and how we act out, how we motivate in our worlds. And so even though I want to have a brighter, lighter, cheerful energy coming through on my podcast, it isn't always possible with how I talk about astrology. And, it does focus a lot of energy when these aspects come through, and they affect us so deeply. And usually it's individual. But because of the pandemic and because of Pluto, wherever Pluto is, he affects broadly. He affects generations of people. And so people with Pluto and Leo, those are the elder generation people who were coming into adulthood in the 40s and 50s. And so they're the ones who are elderly now, and their generation sees things quite differently from, say, those born in the 90s or early 90s, late 80s, when Pluto was in Pluto was in Scorpio. And, the 90s was really that angsty, grunge-filled generation that really squared the energy of who has been in charge in our country for quite a long time. Looking at politics around the globe, I tend to focus more on Europe, and I do pay attention somewhat to Brazil now, and Argentina, Venezuela, South America, the Middle East, and, Canada. I'm all over the globe, but mostly I look at how European or British influences interact with American, because we were so closely linked when this country was founded. And I find it does mirror each other, but the difference is America has elderly people, and has for the last 4 or 5 years, in our ruling energy. So the leaders of the country are that generation of Pluto and Leo, and UK right now has someone of my generation who is Pluto and Virgo. And Pluto and Virgo is the generation of help and service. It can be military. The 60s were the Vietnam era, and that was under Pluto and Virgo. So definitely Virgo rules service and help and work in the military. And so we see that with, Boris Johnson in the UK. His chart also, probably because I think he was born the same year I was, includes a Uranus-Pluto conjunction in Virgo. And so, also our country, my country, I'm in America, Kamala Harris, she is the same year as well. And so she has that same energy in her chart, and yet she is a liberal person and Boris Johnson is conservative. So it's really interesting to see that year and the dynamic between the different political leaders. But getting back to what's going on this week, all these things are things that go through my mind, things I wanted to share with you. But we have the sun in Aries, Venus, feminine energy expressing out with a more assertive voice, which is Mercury in Aries, more drive to be the center of something, to be the focus is on self. The focus is on self-promotion. When the sun is in Aries, when Mercury is in Aries, we definitely have this strong sense of self. And what is the drive that I have that I want to give to the world? And how can I promote myself? The ruling planet in Gemini of Aries, which is Mars, is also in positive cooperation right now at 21 degrees of Aries, in positive aspect to Venus. And so women and men have something in common right now. It is communication, but there is a duality to it, being the Gemini energy. So we have male-female energy, but we also have two sides of a coin. We have politically two sides of politics, the conservative side and the liberal side, the progressive side, which I identify with, because I have a ton of Aquarian energy in my chart, and Aquarius is now a central focus that we're really starting to get our feet wet in with Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius. So the slower moving planets, Saturn probably more so than Jupiter, even though Jupiter takes a year to go through a sign. I consider that to be fairly quick moving because, even this year, the last 4 or 5 years, Jupiter has gone only in one sign in the zodiac through his time in a year. And it almost began at the end of the year and started and ended with that 1 year. But now we're getting Jupiter with 3 months or 2.5 months in another sign of Pisces this summer. And that makes it a significant year for me astrologically. So with the Aquarian energy, we are getting the expansion of Aquarius. We're getting the idealization on some level, and I do associate Aquarius with an idealized view of things on some level because of the connection to Pisces, which is the sign that will be in the second house of the manifestation of energy that we see when Aquarius is on the horizon. As a rising sign or as a sun-ruled chart, we see Aquarius in the first house and Pisces in the second. So as Pisces manifests out whatever Aquarian ideals have been dealt with through the time of planets in Aquarius, there is the idealized overlay of the manifestation that comes from Pisces. So Aquarians can be rather idealistic. And then they're also focused more on their own personal authority, which translates to personal power, which kind of reinforces right now some of the energy coming in with Aries and definitely Mars and Gemini. So Mars and Gemini in positive aspect to Saturn, theoretically, I would say Saturn and Jupiter, because they're in the same energy, the same elemental energy of air. We are in a new mental clarity cycle that really is going to be around for decades. Pluto going into Aquarius will last over 20 years. And we also have Saturn in there for another 1.5 years. So it's going to be a fairly long cycle of awakening and understanding and finding where we choose to put our personal power. So kind of what I wanted to talk about, Uranus is still in Taurus. Uranus is squaring Saturn. Saturn's at 11 degrees Aquarius and Uranus is at 9 degrees of Taurus. So we're going to see that square continue to be in orb for a while over the year. And that means we're still continuing to see awakening of the feminine, awakening of alternative currencies, alternative lifestyles, alternative makeup, and how we see ourselves physically. I mean, you can tell Aries and Taurus are both very concerned with appearance and the head from the neck up, vocal cords for Taurus. And I do see Uranus and Taurus being alternative ways of expression, but including music. I think that a little bit I'm starting to see alternative music styles coming in. People are more willing to express themselves in their voice and not as much, and it's still developing, but not as much, hey, this is how everybody is selling records now, let's put out this kind of music, but much more throwing in a mix of different styles, but also testing new instruments and testing alternative ways of creating music. I think about Billie Eilish and her brother making music and how he has said numerous times in different interviews that he included sounds like the clicking on and off of a street walk sign that Billie Eilish heard when she was in Australia. The sign clicked on and off, and they included that as a background noise in their music. Or, any kind of mundane sounds are thrown into the mix to create a new sound. So that kind of creativity is really out there now and will be for a while as Uranus goes through Taurus, and that will last, let me see, we're in early 20s, so probably through the end of the decade at least. really coming up with new styles. And then as Uranus moves into Gemini, we're going to see even more of that, because Gemini is all about testing out new and different and ideas. So it's just only going to continue for a good couple decades. We are really in this rebirth renaissance energy of, wow, we've got all this new information coming in and we're remixing it and regurgitating it in new and different ways. So, we're really awakening to that. Okay, I'm going to focus more on what's going on for the week, because I still want to talk a bit about the slower moving planets before the end of the podcast. And I honestly don't even know how long I've been on for. This particular method on Zoom doesn't show me, so I have to pay attention to the clock. I don't know how long I've been talking. Anyway, so yeah, what I've got here is Thursday's fairly, we've got a lot of sextiles going on between Saturn and the Aries planets, and Mars and Gemini and the Aries planets. So that's a lot of expression and taking action on our thoughts and what ideas we have, and a lot of communication. We're very busy people right now, and we're very communicative and chatty right now, which, I've had coffee and probably ramping up a stronger addiction to coffee, which I go in cycles through my adult life around caffeine. I cut it out for years at a time, and then I get into it again, and then I cut it out. I'm in a caffeine cycle right now. Yeah. So we've got, I'm sorry, I'm getting a text message. I'm going to shut my phone off here so I don't have to hear that. Got an itch. So Mercury on Friday, Mercury conjuncts Chiron in Aries. So that is about how we think of a wounding we've had, what we're going to do mentally, how we integrate that wounding. And it's a physical wounding. It is guns, it is violence, it is taking action, it is our male energy, how we interact with our environment, what is the engine, motorcycles, vehicles, action, interaction, and possibly reaction, but Aries tends to be more proactive than reactive. So just so you know, Moon in Pisces squaring Mars in Gemini on Friday. That's April 9th. So that's going to be a very emotional energy at odds with the action taken. Not going to kid you, this is definitely Moon moving into Aries on Friday night into Saturday. It's going to be an emotional, strong Aries weekend, and that can mean more violence. Hopefully, with the Biden agenda coming in, more attention to the aggression and how we interact with the need to express that energy in society. We've got Mars squaring Neptune as well at 3:18 p.m. Eastern and 12:18 p.m. on Friday. And then we have a sextile between Moon and Pluto. That's a late degree sextile with the Moon in Pisces right before it goes into Aries. And so it's going to be a cooperative energy between authority and rules and organizations and government, and then the emotion that has been brought out, and a culmination, because it's a late degree 22, 26 degree of Pisces and Capricorn. It's going to be, hey, what are we doing to fix this? The concentrated energy before the bodies go into the new energy. Pluto will be focused at the end degrees of Capricorn for a while. So it's going to be kind of an ongoing story for the next couple of years as Pluto really gets into the final degrees of Capricorn. And then the Moon goes into Aries, so it is going to be about the home connection, the nurturing, the security energy. And, as a family, as a country, what are we doing? I find it's interesting. I find the energy of Aquarius really connected to family life right now. And I personally have it ruling my fourth house of home and family. But also as a country, we have some of that energy in there. And I forget which U.S. chart, it may be the Sibley, but I'm not totally sure. I think Sibley might be a Gemini rising. But there is one of the charts, and maybe it's a sunrise chart for America on July 4th, 1776, that has a Scorpio rising, which puts a lot of homeland energy into the Aquarius house. So we really do find that when Aquarius is triggered, it is the family of man. And we see that a lot right now, I find. And I do want to say at this point, because it came up in my mind, I want to mention it. AngelicZodiac.com. If you go to that site, there is a forum that I've created that we can start talking about some of the astrology stuff that we're finding going on. I've created a couple discussion groups. Please check it out. I really want to start promoting my things much more than I have, because I don't find that I do that enough. I'm a little bit shy to do self promotion, but now with Mercury, Sun, and Venus in my house of work, it kind of makes it a perfect time to mention it. So definitely go to AngelicZodiac.com and let's create a forum and a place for us to share astrology. You can create a member account there as well. Okay. So, yeah, I see Friday is going to be a pretty big emotional, but also cooperative energy with the moon sextile Pluto until the moon enters Aries. And then Saturday is a pretty big day for positive movement with Aries. We've got, of course, moon joining up, conjuncting all of the Aries planets. And they are the quicker moving interpersonal planets. So know that you're going to feel this interpersonal connection going on with people. So that means that it's much faster. It's sisters, brothers, family members, co-workers, neighbors, animals, pets, things like that. It isn't as focused with the collective, but we do have a huge collective energy with Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter in the end signs. And so they do bring in the overall story on Neptune and Pisces. That is the collective. But this time of year in spring, we do see the faster moving planets moving into the beginning signs of the zodiac and then starting the new cycle for our lives, the fresh new advancement planets. And so we're going to see a lot of that concentrated coming up in this week. And then we have a new moon. I'm sorry, Vanessa. We have a new moon in Aries at 22 degrees. This is significant on Sunday because we have the energy of the stellium in Capricorn last January, on the 2 Januaries ago, 2020, when we had basically the beginning of COVID entering America and really the beginning of that whole storyline. We had the retrograde Mercury in Pisces. Currently, as I'm recording this, the moon's in Pisces at the degrees that Mercury was retrograde. And then we have the storyline of that stellium with a square to all the Aries planets. So it is the beginning last year of the racist storyline of like how that integrates in our lives and in our society. So that is going to be the story as long as these planets are transiting through Aries. They are rather quick moving because, again, it's Sun, Mercury, Venus, going to move on out, and then we'll hit the Taurus energy, which is more of the story of women. I was reading before the podcast about France having more openness to the Me Too movement, which also happened recently. Last year it was Me Too and George Floyd. It was so much activism around social entities, social movements that we're really seeing right now. And so anyway, we're going to be seeing that over this next few weeks with the Aries energy, men, and then the Taurus energy, which is women. And let's see what else. Oh, I just want to finish my thought. So apparently in France, 2 years ago, there was some type of sexual misconduct energy going on with someone accusing authorities and leaders of sexual misconduct, but it didn't really get the momentum. And then I was reading in the article today that it is now getting momentum and people are getting taken to task for sexual misconduct in politics and entertainment all over France. So it's just a little bit slower, but that's coming into fruition now. Let's see, Monday, we've got a moon in Taurus. We've got more of, I would say, cooperative energy with the moon sextiling Jupiter. And then the moon moves into Taurus at 1:44 p.m. We really have like the morning is void, of course. So in the morning on Monday, it's going to be a little bit more laid back, not as much going on with a moon moon conjunct Venus in Aries. So there's going to be more of a cooperative energy, like a culmination and an end story around security. And then we've got Aries Sun sextile to Mars on Tuesday. So that's more social, self-centered, or self-focused, with ideas turning into action. So I think that can be really positive movement forward using the Aries energy. Wednesday is very women-centric with Venus moving into Taurus. And then the moon is also in Taurus. So of course, there's a conjunction between the moon and Venus. Let me see if that happens. Yeah, it happens later. I don't even see where it shows up on this. There's no conjunction. Why does it not show the conjunction? Okay, well, anyway, there's going to be a moon conjunct Venus, I believe, unless it moves out. It may move out before Venus gets touched, but it's not showing me. Okay. So anyway, I will just throw it out there that probably Wednesday is a moon-Venus conjunction, which is very women-centric. And then let's see, Sun in Aries sextile to Jupiter on Thursday. So that's going to be the ego and our drive, like how we look at ourselves and where we're at and what we do in our day-to-day lives. And really, it is about how the sun interacts with your personal sun in your chart. What is your sun sign? Is it in positive aspect to Aries? Is it in negative aspect? My sun is in Virgo, which inconjuncts the Aries energy. So people who have negative aspects to Aries on that day are going, this is Thursday, the 13th, 15th. And so you're going to feel a little bit more stress on that day, maybe a conflict with someone else, because when you have Aries energy or Mars energy, there is more of an aggressive need to express yourself. And then the people who are cooperative, you're going to find a lot more ability to move forward, to get things done, a fire in your belly, so to speak. And then we have the 16th, which is going to be the end of my week next week. I will be gone most of the week. So if you want a reading, we're going to probably have to do it later on in the week or probably the week after, because next week's pretty much a vacation week for me. But I am very much excited to do readings some more the week after. If you are interested, please do check me out at angeliczodiac.com. And I want to thank you for showing up with me. Please do share the podcast. Check out Angelic Zodiac. And I've got a painting for the week. I just did this yesterday. I love this so much. It's cherry blossoms, watercolor. So if you want to see my artwork, it's at shelleyoverton.com. And yeah, so take care. We'll see you next week. And have a great week. Try and look on the bright side of things, but don't beat yourself up if you get carried away with some of the agitation that is just out there in society. Wear your mask, wash your hands. We're still in COVID, and take care. See you next week. Bye. Love you.
You have been listening to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show. If you would like to get a private reading with Shelley, please contact her through angeliczodiac.com or at so@angeliczodiac.com. You can arrange a reading through the Angelic Zodiac page at facebook.com as well. Check out Angelic Zodiac on Instagram for up-to-date information on events, discounts, blogs and planetary transits at Angelic Zodiac 1 on Instagram. If you would like to see Shelley's art, shelleyoverton.com, or for astrology art, go to astroart.net. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Other music will be credited within the show. Advice given in the program is intended for entertainment purposes only. Join us here next week for more of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast. You can find us on iTunes and Google Play, and where podcasts are accessed.